following are the words of Lou Civello, president of the Suffolk County Police Benevolent Association.
Police officers risk their lives to protect our communities and keep our streets safe. These officers are the thin blue line that stands between your family and the criminals that would do them harm. We are your neighbors, protecting your neighborhood. Hold the line. Support law enforcement. Stand with the Suffolk County PBA.
The following radio show is live, except for the announcement you're hearing right now.
Welcome back to Your Island Live with your host, Tom Scilero, on 103.9 LI News Radio.
And once again, welcome back as we're moving right along. We got Lou Civello coming up. I think we got a phone call coming in. I think Lou, very busy with all of the different things that are going on. PBA President Lou Civello has, I mean, you can't believe how busy it is to be in his position and so on, and what he does for the people of Suffolk County and also for the people for his own membership there. They are the safeguard. They are important to represent not just the rank and file, but in the end, it's an offshoot of what they do for the people of Suffolk County. So PBA President Lou Civello, just a great asset to have on our program every other week. In the meantime, he's here. Lou Civello, how are you, my friend?
Doing well, Tom. Great to be with you.
You know, yesterday was an amazing day, just watching the inauguration and all of that. And again, I always think I have like a certain prism I look at. And to me, public safety, to me, what's right for our police officers, even on the federal level and so on. And we're learning more and more about the Biden administration and what had happened in terms of not representing our brothers and sisters in blue all across the country. I'm talking about, and some of the things that took place. You know, Joe Biden with his really in a lot of cases anti-police rhetoric, that it's a racist system and so on. And you know that kind of made me sick. Now we have somebody who really speaks the language, which you can tell he speaks the language of the American people. And so now again, a lot of executive orders were signed. A lot of things are changing. We saw a tragedy in the state of Vermont, I think, last night. A Customs Border Patrol made a car stop not too far from the Canadian border and was killed. There was a shootout and was killed, and that was last night. So the border, not just in the southern border, but the northern border between Canada and New York and Canada and Vermont, all very important to be safeguarded and so on. Do you think there's, and I know there is, but how do you see a brighter day? Because these were some dark days for law enforcement the last 4 years.
Most certainly, Tom, and my heart goes out to that officer's family. Our border is a very dangerous place, and I am very hopeful now that is going to change under the new administration. We now have a president that is going to defend the police rather than try to defund us, as Joe Biden did for so long. So it's great to have a partner in the White House. It's going to be great to have those federal resources, both at our border and in our local police departments. Having that federal partnership is so critically important for us, especially when we are facing these transnational gangs like Tren de Aragua and MS-13, ultra-violent gangs who often for them, going to prison here in this country is an upgrade from the conditions in the countries that they came from. So, we need a real partner in the White House. We need the death penalty back on the table. I'm sure you saw, Tom, the sentencing of that individual who was involved in 7 murders, 7 murders here on Long Island, 2 of which were 16-year-old children that were viciously murdered, machetes, just the most brutal and vile of acts. And this individual got sentenced. I think that the sentencing recommendation was from 40 to 60 years, which is a joke. I mean, at 40 years, it's less than 6 years per person that this individual murdered. You can't have that. That is not a deterrent. He was actually smiling at his sentencing, again, because the joke is on the American people here. Our justice system has been a joke under Joe Biden, and it's very, very fortunate, and it's a blessing now to have a real president back in the White House.
Right, and signing executive orders to what you just said. Even though we do have a federal death penalty, Joe Biden pretty much deleted it, except for 3 individuals. So I think that one of the executive orders yesterday, I'm trying to read through it, but Lou, there's just so much there of what he did in the first 24 hours was to underscore the commitment that the federal government has towards a death penalty. Because as you and I well know, we live in a state that let out so many cop killers, those that were in there for 30 years, 35, 40 years. Remember, those officers are still deceased and their families still miss them. And now you have many of them are free. And we're seeing the problems that we have in Albany. And that's certainly what's closer to home with us. Now, in the meantime, I do want to go back to the case with the police officer, Brendan Gallagher. It's interesting that when you come on right after your segment, we have DA Ray Tierney. And it's just great to get the perspective of both of you. Both of you are interested in what's happening up in Albany, legislation that affects policing. Ray Tierney is doing the same thing. Ray, when he notifies me that yes, I'll be coming on, talked about Cody Fisher, the defendant in the Gallagher case. Wanted to talk about that. It really is gratifying to me that we have a DA that cares that much to make sure that we get justice. And your part in it is certainly to provide the information and the public support among our rank and file, in addition to the public that's out there right now. How easy is it? And I don't know if the easy is the right word, but how convenient is it to work with the criminal justice system here in Suffolk County, like a DA Ray Tierney and the judges that we have, to see justice? Because this Cody Fisher guy, I'm saying defendant, I'm saying alleged, I'm trying to do everything politically correct because he hasn't been convicted yet. But just the way in which he's perfecting the defense in this makes us all sick. Go ahead, look.
Yes, I can tell you that the law enforcement officers here in Suffolk County are incredibly fortunate to have Ray Tierney as our DA. He's done an incredible job. I can tell you, and I'll sing his praises here. So out at the arraignment of Cody Fisher, that individual who almost killed Officer Brendan Gallagher, the media was asking questions, and again, Tom, this individual was traveling at in excess of 90 miles per hour, 100 miles per hour. He was driving recklessly. This is an individual that was high, an individual didn't have a driver's license, somebody that was involved in the street takeovers in the past, an individual that has had prior road rages, and while participating in that road rage, had a gun, right, was arrested on these weapons charges for having a firearm. And the question that we receive from the media is the officer at fault here? Is the officer at fault for having tried to pull this individual over? And our DA, the great DA of Suffolk County, immediately pushed back and told that reporter, maybe you want to live in a place like that, and maybe that happens in other jurisdictions here, where somebody does 100 miles per hour, puts your child, spouse in danger, and you just want the police to sit idle and just wave to them as they go by. But that's not how things are done here in Suffolk County. We are going to enforce the law, and it was a reprehensible statement by that individual's attorney, and again by the media for repeating it, to say that somehow the officer who's in the hospital fighting for his life is somehow to blame for having the audacity to want to pull the person over and actually enforce the law.
See, the police, as you know, the police, and again, to our listening audience, they're the vanguard. They're the wall of safety between the criminal action and the law-abiding public. There was the law-abiding public that were on the road that night or that afternoon that took place. And what Police Officer Gallagher did was merely try to put himself in between that to stop this individual before there was a tragedy having to do with a Suffolk County resident or anybody that was on the road at that time. It is clear common sense. That is the contract that law enforcement has with the public in which to do that. So when I read that, in fact, you raised the issue, and I took it from you because I didn't know this was going on. With, I think Bessa was the attorney, and he was the one that was saying all that. And I'm allowed to say his name because he did say it. It's part of the public record that he was that the officer was just as much at fault as the perpetrator here. And of course, that is absolutely insane. It's absolutely stupid. We try to keep our blood pressure down when we even repeat these things. That the contract between law enforcement and the public is to protect us. And that's what Officer Gallagher was doing. And he was doing it exemplary. And he's done it a couple of times in his career. And he's also a widely decorated officer, including a military veteran. These are the people that we need. And I know I'm pontificating right now, but it does make me mad that we have that sort of a mantra going on in our natural dialogue that we have right now. I mean, as mad as I get over this, and as mad as my listeners get, because they call in support of what you're saying and support of what I'm saying right now, that it does raise the bar quite a bit. So let's hope that the system works in this case.
Yeah, served in Afghanistan, Tom. Was injured in the line of duty before where he was stabbed. This is not the type of officer that's going to sit idle as somebody, whizzes by at 100 miles per hour, driving recklessly, and basically tries to antagonize the police, right? Like this is, this is somebody that if you don't have a driver's license, if you're high, you would try to avoid contact with the police. Not this individual, right? Because he knows that he can get away with it. He knows that there are no repercussions in this state. So why not try to blow by the police officer at 100 miles an hour and try to get his attention? It's a crazy idea that we should allow these people to do this and, maybe kill someone else on the road. That's not what anybody who travels these roads is thinking. There's no one who is on the LIE or on Sunrise just trying to get to work that gets cut off at 100 miles per hour by somebody that says, the police should just let this person go. They're thinking, where are the police? Why aren't the police doing something?
Exactly.
Well, it's the exact opposite. They want us out there pulling those people over, especially an individual that has been involved in road rage before with a gun, right? That's the individual that you want the police doing whatever they have to do to pull that person over and take them off the road. You don't want the police sitting idle in a case like that. And that's certainly not what Officer Gallagher did, nor is it what any officer should do. We should be out there doing our job and taking these very dangerous, reckless people off the road. And we need laws that support us, Tom.
And I think in the end, when this case is finally adjudicated, it goes through the courts, plea bargain, or whatever you want. That's going to be the final result. They could posture all they want. There's not a person listening to us right now, Lou, that says, "Well, I was on the LAE yesterday, and this guy cut me to the right, cut me to the left, weaving in and out of traffic, nearly hit my right front fender at 70 miles an hour." This is going on every single day. There's not a person who drives the LIE or Sunrise Highway or any major thoroughfare in Long Island that doesn't come across these type of aggressive drivers. In addition to the fact that this guy had a criminal record, and unfortunately, police officer Gallagher had a serious physical injury. What is the latest with Officer Gallagher?
So I have to say, I saw him a few days ago, and Tom, he really is making progress, and it is a blessing. It is nothing short of a miracle. He certainly had an angel on his shoulder. Yep. He was able to actually get out of the bed and into a seated position, able to speak. Light years difference than when I saw him that night that he was so devastatingly injured. That night, his color was completely gone. His aorta had a hole in it. He had several tourniquets applied to him and was rushed into critical life-saving surgery. And we really thought we were going to lose him that night. So to see him actually able to speak and hold a conversation and to thank his fellow officers who came to his aid that night, it's just absolutely incredible. He's not out of the woods yet, but we are hoping that soon, he will be, and that we'll be celebrating his homecoming, leaving the hospital soon.
Yeah, terrific. We're in a new session right now. We do our Albany report on Thursdays. I have the usuals, Assemblyman Doug Smith and Senator Dean Murray, Assemblywoman Jody Giglio. They come on every Thursday, and we talk about some of the challenges that are going on up in Albany. Ray Tierney, same thing. When he's on every other week, he follows you. Once again, I'm speaking to PBA President Lou Civello, that there's an agenda up there again this year. And I'm hoping that agenda somewhat moves towards more common sense, that we finally realize that we've got to give judges more discretion when you have somebody arrested 87 times for subway stabbings or something like that, and they keep letting them go, that maybe there'll be some more common sense. I know you're close to this. This is something very important. You have representatives up there in Albany that try to make some more sense in terms of tougher legislation and tougher laws to help our cops, which help our people, which is really, to me, there's no separation of that. What's good for our police is good for our communities. How do you see this new session that just began? I think State of the State was last week.
Yeah, I actually had the opportunity to attend the State of the State. I was seated right near our great county executive, Ed Romaine, and I know he was repeating a lot of the same concerns I was, both to the governor's staff and to the other electeds. That these laws certainly do need to change. She expressed some sentiments in the State of the State speech. I'm hoping she's genuine about them. about increasing safety on our mass transit systems and in the subways and putting more police officers there and getting the mentally ill, Tom, off the system. I mean, it is not compassionate to allow people who are severely mentally ill just to wander through the subway system and make it a giant homeless shelter. I mean, there's no compassion in that. These are people that need long-term care. They need to be institutionalized in many cases. They shouldn't be out there pushing people in front of trains and setting people on fire. And it's a lot of the same root cause. We don't deal with the mental illness. We don't deal with the violent criminals. We don't hold them accountable. So, we need to make some changes to our bail reform law, to the discovery laws, to how we treat the mentally ill. And like I said, I'm talking to everyone that will listen up there about law enforcement's perspective on these issues and the common sense changes that need to be made. I'm hopeful that in this session maybe we'll get something on judicial discretion, that they will do something with discovery, and I'm sure our DA will have a lot to say about that. We need to go a lot further than what's being talked about with those discovery laws. Right now, we're losing cases on technicalities because they put so much burden on our DAs to be able to get the paperwork done in a timely fashion, and that cannot be allowed. We cannot let a violent criminal walk free on a technicality because of some burdensome law that was unduly put on our prosecutors. It's unfair, and it's causing more harm to victims. So that needs to be changed as well.
And those are the goals. And I think, I'm an optimist. I believe at a certain point there has to be a realization that just maybe these guys, these Ray Tierney's and these Lou Civellos, maybe we ought to listen to them because, it's not such a great situation going on, particularly when you have, as you just articulated, you burn a person in a subway. You have a guy that's been arrested 87 times and he's got a hobby. He brings a knife with him and he stabs people randomly. I mean, when you think about that, you realize, maybe it is a mental health issue and so on, but either way, they cannot be out in public. Which brings me to the next point. When you have Carl Hastie, the Speaker of the State Assembly, one of the three most powerful people in the state of New York, saying he never really saw that putting people in jail reduces crime, or even putting them in a mental institution reduces crime, and that this is why we're going to continue on with the programs that we do have right now. How do you I'm asking you an impossible question. How do you convince somebody like that you're just damn wrong?
Right, and I think at some level he has to know he's wrong, Tom. I think some of that is the politics of the left. It's so counterintuitive and absolutely ludicrous to think that locking the individual up who's out there stabbing someone doesn't reduce crime. Of course it does, right? And you don't need to be someone who studies statistics to know that. It's just absolute common sense. I think he's kind of trying to placate his base there. And I think we, as a society, as a state, need to start making it be known that there are going to be repercussions for that as far as elections. So in these cases where they just won't listen, or they want to listen to a fringe part of their party, well, then we need to get more active. We need to start voting. We need to get New York City on board, and we need to work with our friends and neighbors across the state to make some changes. And I think that's slowly happening. You saw how close the last governor's race was when Lee Zeldin ran and really made it a competitive race. And I think that this governor has an opportunity now to make things right before we get into an election year for her. So hopefully that is what she is going to do. Hopefully she's going to work with law enforcement. Hopefully she's going to make the common sense changes that we need and use the power of the governor's position in order to make things change. And I hope that's the case. If it's not, then there's an election in 2 years' time. Then it's time to maybe hold some of these people accountable.
Yeah, well, you actually anticipated my next question is how important is voting, and you just answered that. What also was important was the activism by the Suffolk County PBA is just so valuable to getting that message across. That's what, and we spoke about it on an earlier program. The governor actually, you got her attention, and to me, that's a great thing because if you can get the governor's attention to things that you and I are talking about, is going to have a positive influence, and I think you were able to do that time that you did meet with the governor.
Yeah, I think certainly. I think even before she took the position, Tom, I will say Cuomo year after year would snub our families of the fallen, families who lost their loved ones in the line of duty. And Governor Cuomo would never show up. Kathy Hochul always did, even before she was governor over and over. She had a 100% rating from the NRA when she, before she became governor. So I think in some ways she is a moderate, and she gets it. Unfortunately, she's in a state where we have, 2-to-1 registration as far as Democrats. And then even amongst that population, I think the fringe part of that party has tended to control a lot of the state politics. So I'm hoping she comes back to a centrist position, to a place of common sense. And it's good for her to hear, from law enforcement and from our side of the aisle. So having that dialogue critically important, and I hopefully keep doing it.
Once again, Lou Civello, president of Suffolk County PBA. Every other week I have him on. Lou, I'm looking forward to 2 weeks. Thanks for coming on, my friend.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Tom.
Okay, we got DA Ray Tierney coming up next, folks. And then we're going to take your phone calls. A lot going on. 631-451-1039. Hold the number until 1:35. We'll be right back.